Welcome to the first broadcast of Random Musings. Um, well, I'm not really sure how to do all this, but we'll give it a go and see what happens. Well, first thing that kind of popped into my mind today was this whole thing about Apple and the iPhone and the FBI. It seems to me like this is only just a reason to get the keys to the kingdom, as they say. Because just sitting here with my admittedly rather lowly associate's degree in computer network administration, I sat down and figured out a couple of ways where this problem could be solved, especially since the FBI recently announced that in court that reason they're having all this trouble in the first place is because they decided to reset the iCloud password for this phone. My thought is that as far as I know, Apple ID and iCloud and all that doesn't let you reuse passwords, which means that the passwords are still stored on Apple server somewhere in hash format. Seems to me like maybe Apple could, pull up the database entry for that account, look at the previous password hashes, and reset the current password to the most recent password hash, thereby resetting the password to what it was before. Then the FBI can do exactly what Apple told them to do, which is connect the phone to a Wi-Fi access point that the phone had already been connected to, and that would cause the phone to auto-sync to iCloud. Seems pretty simple. I don't understand why they're not doing that. There's also the other idea I had, which was they could make it much more complicated. Apple probably, most likely, has backups of the iCloud server. They could take the backup of the iCloud server from a date previous to when they changed the password, set it up on a local network, recreate the Wi-Fi access point. Should be pretty simple for Apple to clone an IP, a wireless access point, MAC address, SSID, all that stuff. Shouldn't be no problem. Configure a DNS to point to the local backup server. Have it sync that way. Seems like that should work as well. The other idea I had was FBI goes out and buys a new iPhone, same model, same carrier, clones the original phone, flashes the new phone with the old phone software, and sit there and brute force the 4-digit passcode. There's only 10,000 possible combinations. Shouldn't take them too long even if they have to type them in by hand. And after 10 fails, the phone erases itself, they go back, reflash the phone again, and start all over. That also seems like that should be a possibility, although I might not fully understand how the encryption is on the latest iPhones. I've been told that there's actually hardware in the phone for this that actually seeds the encryption and all that. So that idea probably would not work. Um, to me, it seems like there are several possibilities for the FBI and Apple to clear up this whole matter, get access to the phone without giving the government a key to open every iPhone in existence. That would be preferable to, but it seems like that's not what the FBI wants. The FBI actually wants to be able to open phones at will for no other purpose than to check to see if there's something that might be interesting to them. It makes me very, very afraid when our government decides to do these things. More and more of our constitutional rights and liberties are being taken away, and people seem to be wanting this. They don't want privacy. They'd rather have the government hand them everything. To me, that doesn't seem like a very good idea. because what they hand you, they can very easily take away. I fear for the world that my children are going to grow up in, especially with the way this current presidential election is going. I believe Trump is probably the scariest thing that I've ever seen. I don't understand how he continues to remain popular with everything that he says. He pretty much seems to be catering to middle class white males, racist, uh, misogynist, and he still seems to be gaining in popularity. It only, in my mind, this does not seem possible. It seems like that perhaps voting doesn't really matter. I believe that, especially now, that the candidate has already been chosen and our next president has already been chosen. And this whole election and all this campaigning is all one big dog and pony show to give the people the illusion that they have a choice in their leadership. I feel that Trump will probably destroy everything that makes America great. How can a person who's filed bankruptcy many times and had so many failures believe he has the ability and the knowledge to be the executive of a country when he can't maintain his companies without going bankrupt and starting over? Being This is much different than being president of a country where there are no do-overs. There are no bankruptcies for governments. When governments go bankrupt, people are hurt and injured. I believe Trump is the way that we will see martial law in this country before the end of his presidency. People will slowly and willingly give up the rights to free speech, which I am exercising now, and the right to due process, and the right to be secure in their persons and property, and not be subject to unreasonable searches and seizures. But enough about the doom and gloom. Let's go on to a little bit of technology. Um, I recently upgraded to Windows 10 from Windows 7, and yeah, I am highly concerned about all of the data that is sent back to Microsoft. However, pretty much every operating system has some sort of telemetry that is sent back, either voluntary or involuntary. Um, a lot of the features that Windows 10 has, I'm actually pretty happy with. Um, Cortana seems to be fairly useful, and it seems that speech recognition has come quite a long way since the last time I attempted to use it. I think Windows 10 is a very good compromise between Windows 7 and Windows 8 because I do like the Windows apps and I like the fact that they got rid of the start screen. I was not a fan because I don't have any touch enabled devices. Giving me back the desktop and giving me the Windows apps has made it pretty decent. Um, the only thing that I do have some problems with is that it does tend to eat RAM like crazy. I'm currently running with about 10 gigabytes or so of DDR3, and the system seems to want to eat about 5 of it just sitting here idle. Now I'm sure there's some way I can configure this where it's not so bad. I haven't really looked into it because I haven't had really any slowdowns. In fact, the system has sped up quite a bit from Windows 7. I did have to do a fresh install because when I attempted to do the upgrade from Windows 7, it was very slow. And drivers were not installed properly, nor could I use some of the features in the GeForce experience, such as the optimization for games, and etc. But all in all, doing a clean install has really improved the system, and I'm quite happy with it. I know no one is listening to this. This is kind of for my own therapy and allows me to voice my opinions to others. I know it seems crazy that I'm sitting here pretty well talking to myself, but what can I say? It's pretty interesting. I've always kind of wanted to do this, and I'm fairly happy with how it's going. I'm sure I'll improve in time, and maybe people will actually start listening. If people listen, people listen. If they don't, they don't. I am okay with that. I do tend to spend quite a bit of time over on Godlike Productions and Lunatic Outpost. I used to go to Above Top Secret quite a bit, but I'm not quite sure what happened over there. Um, it was a very good resource for me for many years. However, people seem to have, the owners of the site seem to have gone crazy, in my opinion. Um, Splashing this next level bullshit that they think web broadcast or video broadcasts from YouTube, I'm not a fan of. And it seems like the information is that a lot of the people who used to give very good information have left or been banned. And I don't quite understand the reasoning behind it. It seems to have gone very mainstream, and I am very sad to see that that has happened. I wish that I wish people I wish the site would return to the way it was without all the advertising and the pleading for donations and all that. Godlike Productions, on the other hand, I do like for the simple fact that it is just basically the streaming consciousness of a section of the internet where anybody can post whatever they want within reason. Not too much is ever really deleted or banned. And I know there's a lot of stuff that's not really, pardon me, that's not really relevant, and a lot of it is made up and bullshit. But there are a few postings that actually are not that are actually very informative and actually do kind of show you things that are hidden beneath. I'm currently looking at GLP now, and I mean, there's a lot of interesting topics. A lot of it, like I said, is made up or not really reliable because, again, there's no filter and there's no moderation. So anybody can post just about what they want. But with that comes the ability to have real information out there, and nobody will question it, and a large majority of people will decide that it's fake or just the random babblings of a raving lunatic, which I probably am most of the time. I guess what really got me into conspiracy theories in the beginning was the television show here in the United States, Unsolved Mysteries, the one hosted by Robert Stack. And the first episode that I ever saw was a about a investigative journalist named Danny Casolaro, and he was investigating this entity which he named the octopus, and it went into various levels of government and businesses and banking. Pretty much, it had its tentacles in everything. And what sent him down the path was a company called Inslaw, and they developed a program called Promise. And it was a database program that could interface with other databases and basically compile all the data in one spot. Uh, Inslaw developed this software for the Department of Justice, and the Department of Justice was licensing the software from Inslaw for the first year with no problems. After that, the Department of Justice decided they weren't going to pay anymore. Inslaw sued, and in the process of this lawsuit, the owners of Inslaw uh, came to find out that their software was being sold to various foreign powers. Um, what Inslaw and these foreign powers did not know is that some agency had modified the code and added backdoor access to it, thereby allowing U.S. government officials or whatever agency uh, sent the software to various foreign governments for use, gave them backdoor access into their database programs. This was brought to light by a man by the name of Michael Riconosciuto. Um, Shortly after his testimony to the Senate grand jury on the Inslaw case in the Department of Justice, uh, shortly thereafter, the DOJ brought charges against him for creating and selling crystal meth, which were all very trumped up charges, and he still currently is sitting in a federal prison somewhere. While in federal prison, Mr. Riconosciuto, uh, several months before, even years before, he notified the FBI and various other agencies through his lawyer and through letters that a imminent attack was going to happen to the United States, giving specific information about the use of planes and crashing them into buildings. This all was relayed to the FBI and the Department of Justice, and they dismissed it. This was only his last letter was only a few days before the attacks on 9/11. Yet the Department of Justice still and the FBI still claim that his information was not credible. However, if you do a lookup and a search for his letters to the government agencies, he does give pretty credible and pretty specific information. And I don't understand why his information was not taken. He was in the employ of the CIA, which I believe is the agency who modified the Promise software that I was talking about earlier. And when he turned against him by testifying to Congress, they hung him out to dry, like I said, on trumped-up drug charges. Um, he seems to be connected to a lot of conspiracy theories that are out there. He seems to have had his hand in a lot of backroom deals and a lot of, how shall we say, not so legal problems, and made things disappear and things of those nature. Oh, we're getting back to Danny Casolaro. He was finally almost complete with his investigation, and he had traveled to Virginia with all of his files in an accordion note folder. He met with his final contact and received information, and he returned to his hotel room that night. The next morning, housekeeping went into the room and found him in the bathtub with his wrists cut 13 times. 5 on one and 7 on the other. According to Danny Casolaro's brother, Dr. Casolaro, MD, that his brother was so squeamish of blood that he needed to have a anesthetic to even have blood drawn. And the cuts on Danny Casolaro's wrists were so deep that it severed tendons, which means he would not have been able to continue to cut his wrists. Secondly, there were no hesitation marks on his wrists. A balled up bloody towel was found under the sink. The police investigated and they found a suicide note. It said simply that, "Tell my family I love them and God will forgive me." Danny Casolaro, being an atheist, probably would not have wrote such a thing. His body was taken from the hotel directly to the morgue, where it was embalmed before his family had been notified. No autopsy was done until after his embalming and returned to his family. His files were never recovered, and his death was ruled a suicide. Something about that, to me, doesn't add up. But that's how they claim he died. He managed to cut his wrist with severed tendons in his wrists, managed to get out of the bathtub, put the bloody towel under the sink. Somehow, all of his papers and his folders that were with him on this trip, he destroyed, apparently. That doesn't seem to make much sense to me. To me, I'm willing to believe that some agency or some group finally silenced him and took all of his work and tried to make his death seem to be a suicide. Several other people who have also looked into Casolaro's case have either been silenced in one way or another, or had mysterious things happen to them, or have passed away of mysterious causes themselves. Now, if the government or this group had managed to do this in the 1980s, imagine if they were granted the power that Mr. Trump is talking about in his speeches, and the restrictions and nullifications of our rights that have already been taken away by the Patriot Act and other acts and the NSA wiretapping and phone data collection. Imagine how much more reach they possibly could have. If by some chance someone actually is listening to this or will listen to it, I'm sure there will be government agencies who might be listening in on this where I can't see them connected. Certainly possible. Know only that I am no threat to anybody, and you all can just write me off as some crazy idiot. And I would understand, and I'm okay with that. I'm just allowed to, I'm exercising my right to free speech here, and venting my thoughts into the internet where nobody is listening, and it allows me, this is, I believe, going to be some pretty decent therapy for me, just to be able to voice my thoughts and opinions and all that to nobody at all. And if someone does happen to listen, that would, and one would like to interact, okay, cool with that. I know everybody thinks I'm probably crazy, and that's okay with me. I don't know if there will be any more broadcasts or not. Probably. I'm okay with that. If others want to listen, they can listen. If not, uh, either way, it's good for me. I will be uploading these to the show's website right now. We are I'm using I'll be self-hosting, and so if anybody does happen to come across it and wants to take a listen, they're more than welcome to. Um, if anybody ever wants to contact me, they can reach the show through Facebook. Uh, the link is in your Winamp browser. Um, if there's anything that you guys would like me to talk about, or any comments you'd like to make, please direct them to the Facebook page. Um, I'm really not, don't have a whole lot more to say, and I'm actually surprised that I've gone this long. I don't really talk much to other people, at least not about certain aspects of my thoughts and ideas. But I think this has been a good first start. If others are, like I said, interested, I will be working on making this. Uh, I'm planning on trying to make this a little bit better, and we will call it a night uh, for now. I don't know when the next broadcast might be. It could be tomorrow, could be later tonight, could be next year. But thank you and good night.